freedom, and justice. If we all are able, can we rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer? We do this with 2 fingers to the right, 5 to the left, feet in a 45-degree angle, standing on our square. And please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali, Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. I'd like to announce this meeting is open. I rise and give the highest praise to the Most High, Father God, Allah. Honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us the divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. Honors to the forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey, for preparing the way for our prophet. Honors to all Adab Sheikh and all faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish and Divine National Movement. Honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh, Kinu Umar Bey, and his temple of the Unity Temple, as well as our temple. Honors to our Grand Sheikh, honors to all Muslims on the call and on the planet. Islam Secretary Jackson Bey, are you able to read the Divine Constitution and bylaws?
Islam Chairman, I rise giving all praise to Allah, honor to the Prophet Drew Ali, honor to the forefathers and foremothers, honor to the Asiatic nations and the Muslims all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in law affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All means are to be open and closed promptly according to Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man is formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim their free national names to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings to become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line for necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. They are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guides of his Father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder of Moorish American prayer, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home office in Noble Drew Ali. Home office Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islamism. Peace and love.
Islam, brother, and gratitude. Sister Lachelle L., are you able to read the additional laws for the Moorish Americans?
Islam. I rise to give all praise to the great Father God Allah, give honors to the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to the forerunner Marcus Messiah Garvey. I give honors to all Muslims on the call and all Muslims around the world. Questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all business, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish uplifting funds because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I would have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we're to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm this up to the questionnaire. I'll let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and mind pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Islam. Happy Sunday School Moses.
Islam, sister, and gratitude. All right. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the street. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your card to Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, and if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans they do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Jew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is instructions from the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deed that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Jew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they'll be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors. And every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temple. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Jew Ali. To be proclaimed in every meeting, Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all. I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only source all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that distribute to the and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world would not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my work, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the street. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards to Europeans, causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn their card button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Jew Ali. Islam, Moors, I believe I read that one twice. Must have been a reason. Islamism, Grand Sheikh, if you are able to, can you read the divine warning by the prophet for the nation?
Islam, brother, gratitude will do. As you know, there are no mistakes, so everything's in divine order. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law-abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know the law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost. and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do hear and believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with the divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet.
Islam Grand Sheikh, in gratitude. At this time now, I'd like to activate the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of Science, Circle 7, divinely prepared by the noble prophet, Drew Ali, by the guidance of his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back into the highest planes of life, with his Father God Allah. Know thyself and Allah, the genealogy, life and works of Jesus in India, Europe, and Africa, in the land of Egypt. Noble Drew Ali, the prophet and founder of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, to redeem the people from their sinful ways. Islam, Islam, Islamism. We are activated for the Sunday school. The great meeting is on. For the Grand Sheikh goes into the measurements of the keys of 64 through 67 on the 101. I would just like to read two paragraphs from the Moorish literature, Moorish Science Temple of America. The two paragraphs I would like to read will be on 13, What is Islam? It's page 18 on my book. February 1st, 1929, Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his duties towards God Allah, his creator, and his fellow creators. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surroundings. It is primarily the religion of peace. The very name Islam means peace. The goal of a man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything, peace with Allah, and peace with man. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, tells us that the final abode of man is the house of peace, where no vain word or sinful discourse will be heard. The holy divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, says that a follower of Islam in the true sense of the word is one whose hands, tongue, and thoughts Islam, Islamism. I just wanted to read that measurement because that's us. That's us as Moorish Americans. We're just following what the Prophet is stating us to do in our instructions and in our keys to make us a better person and make all of us better people and a better nation and a better civilization, Islam. And with that, I'd like to turn over the mic, turn over the chair to our Grand Sheikh for the one-on-one. Islam.
Islam and gratitude, brother. First and foremost, before I say anything, I want to rise and give the highest of praise to our creator, sustainer, our Father God, Allah. I want to give honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality. And I want to extend honors to the forerunner, to the prophet, our dear brother, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Also want to extend honors to all Moorish leaders all across the nation, past and present. And also want to extend honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother Kenu Bey, and his staff and family. Lastly, I want to extend honors to all you Moors here today, and especially to all members of Temple 30, Columbus, Ohio, Islam Moors. Today in the Koran Questionnaire, as the brother chairman said, we just going over questions 64 through 67. And we do that, specifically because we want to make sure that we are actually understanding, gaining deep understanding of these lessons. We refer to the questions as keys, right? You may have heard that before. You definitely hear that here, but they're affectionately referred to as keys. So these questions from our Quran questionnaire are keys. They are keys to something. So when we actually know what they're talking about, when it's not just words, some of the things in there that might even sound weird, when it's not just words, we have actual understanding, spiritual or metaphysical understanding of the meanings behind these keys, then they actually are keys to the kingdom. Okay. And we understand it in the Quran, in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, is letting us know, like right off bat, know thyself in Allah, right? Know thyself in thy Father God Allah. And then, of course, chapter 1 gives us the creation and fall of man, lets us know our true nature. That man is not the body nor the soul. He is spirit and one with Allah. And that we are actually here to do greater things even than we think is possible, right? Things that we might not even be able to believe that we could do. Man is the Lord of all the plane, of manifest, of protoplast, of mineral, of plant, of beast, but he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. So now we want to regain that lost estate. We know that it must be done in a conflict that cannot be told in words, because we have to come here and experience it. Everyone has to actually experience it and actually know what it's like to be a slave to our own carnal nature, right? The carnal nature was supposed to be a servant to us. It's supposed to be working for us, right? But working for who? Right? Because it can't work for itself. So it works. It takes orders from the higher self. That's the proper order of things. So now we have to raise our thoughts up to divine wisdom. We have to come back to who we truly are. This man who is neither the body nor the soul, right? This truth, this divine spark, which exists in each and every one of us. So we're going to follow these divine instructions to realize our true potential. And we also understand that there's no one else who's going to do this for us, right? There's billions or, at least over 1 billion Muslims in the world. But they're not going to come and teach us this. No foreigner is going to come and show us this, because they don't even know how to do it. And this isn't saying that no one's figured this out. It's just saying that there's no examples to follow. We have to follow the example of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right? So the Prophet put these keys in here, right, to help us think deeper, to gain understanding of the metaphysical and the spiritual. We want to understand what the higher and lower self really is, right? In here, we got the 5 names given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. So if anybody's trying to insinuate that we're not the descendants of Adam and Eve, they're going against the Prophet. The Prophet let it be known, right, that those 5 names are Lucifer, Satan, devil, and dragon and beast for a reason. Because when we understand this, we know that nature, part itself, when we understand this, We know the nature of the lower self. And we don't want to just know the higher, right? The good. We want to know the full nature so that we have a well-rounded view of things and so that we can truly now realize our potential. Okay? So that's really what this is about. So the higher and lower self must be understood in depth in order for us to truly elevate spiritually. Okay? And so this is why the prophet put these lessons in here to awaken Moorish Americans to their divine nature. All right? So we want to actually come in. We want to begin to embody our higher self. There's no question about that. So without a doubt or contradiction, this is what we're really about. So I'm gonna just read the questions real quickly and then we're gonna go back over them. So key 64, give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. Right? Remember, if we're not looking any deeper in this, there's no real understanding what this means. This is actually is mind-blowing when we really understand what's going on here, because each and every one of us can use these keys to improve our life. I put an assignment in there for us that I want us all to do. You know, me, you, even the children. Okay, I'll come back to it towards the end, but everybody, you know, at least copy that and text it to yourself or, you know, something so that you got that. I want us all to work on this week. It's not really hard, but this is just something that I want us all to do and share. Okay, because we're all going to grow from this lesson. All right. So moving on, key 65. What is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. How many selves are there? 2. Name them: higher self and lower self. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into these keys now. Right. So we want to know our true nature, and then unfolding this, uncovering this, and working on this now, we will be able to achieve at a higher level. We've all seen this displayed throughout, maybe even throughout our lives, especially, you know, people over 35 and up. They used to always show this in the cartoons. You got the angel and the devil, you know, on each shoulder. That's higher and lower self, right? The Bugs Bunny cartoons, all those cartoons, they showed it in there all the time. You know, Tom and Jerry, all that stuff, right? But nobody was really telling us what it was about. So we're going to discuss that. So the 5 names given to the descendants of Adam and Eve: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. If we're not understanding that those 5 names actually have meaning, right? They actually have metaphysical meaning. And when we understand that, now we know this is explaining the nature of the lower self. So when it's saying 5 names given to the descendants of Adam and Eve, we spoke about this before, and just a few weeks ago when we were talking about the keys with Adam and Eve. Of course, Adam and Eve is not talking about one man and one woman. It says the mothers and fathers, plural, mothers and fathers of the human family, right? So the, you know, Asiatics and Muslims. So this Adam and Eve represented humans who were not under their lower self. Not now, they may have had a carnal nature, but they were in tune with their higher self. So it wasn't like it is for us, right? So these were people who basically, you know, didn't have a lower self. Even if they had one, it was just like, you know, it was a servant, like it's supposed to be. So they were not slaves to their lower self, but their descendants, right, became slaves to their lower self. Their descendants became fully physical beings. Their descendants became fully human, as we would see it now, where people, you know, there's plenty of people walking around today that think this is all they are, is the body. Okay? Their descendants were not connected to the higher self consciously. They would, you know, have in the scriptures, Adam's walking around talking to Allah because he's at one with the higher self. These people, right, these humans were at one with the higher self. That's the difference. So their descendants became slaves to the lower self, and they became Asiatics, fully, you know, the Asia was one of the names for the whole physical world, the manifests. So their children, their descendants became Asiatics. They became the first physical beings. So When we look at Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, Lucifer represents false light, ego, and pride that blinds one to divine truth. False light, ego, and pride. And, these are things that, like, throughout the day and definitely throughout the week and throughout the month that we all entertain. We all entertain these thoughts. Sometimes we have to speak on it or act on it, let other people know. Okay? But now coming back, dialing things back, understanding the nature of these 5 names that are given to us. These aren't just names. These are characteristics of the lower self. So when that false light, that ego, I'm gonna pump this up. I'm better than you. Got to put people in their place all the time, right? Right? The pride, it blinds you to divine truth. Even though you think you got to put this person in their place, that's all ego. That's all lower self. We're supposed to recognize those thoughts and shut them down before we even bring it out to the world. We're supposed to be able to cut that stuff off here because we are Moorish American Muslims. So remember this. This is why we're going over this and just doing a few keys at a time. Satan, adversary or resistance to divine will, right? And it's always symbolic of the struggle within, right? So we're going against divine will. We know what to do, but it's something in us that don't want to do the right thing, right? And when we know this, when we understand these characteristics, now when those thoughts come up, now we can flip it and be like Jesus when he's in the wilderness and he's getting tempted with all these thoughts. This is, like, for the most part, the voice, the thoughts that we have in our head, it's all lower self. Remember, the lower self is restless. It's restless. It never stops. So it's always talking and, always going. It never stops. All right. So we have to be able to recognize these thoughts that are coming through. Real quick, just want to pause real quick. I see brother Ronnie Harvey Jr. Islam Moore, please let us know where you're calling in from.
Islam Moors.
Islam.
I'm calling it first rising the spirit of 7, still getting everything together. So, first rising the spirit of 7, giving all praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet Noble Jali, giving honors to the forerunner, giving honors to all the other true and divine prophets, giving honors to Allah, giving honors to the spirit, giving honors to all of y'all in attendance today. But I ain't gonna hold you long. I just wanted to speak my piece. And I'm calling in from North Carolina. It's a little city called Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina.
All right, Islam, gratitude for calling in. I see our brother Paris McGee, Islam brother, McGee Bay. I know that brother's out of Baltimore. Islam brother, Islam. Yeah, you don't have to take a mic if you don't want to. Just wanted to recognize you, brother, and let's go ahead and keep things moving. So Lucifer, false light, ego, pride, blinds you to the divine truth. Satan, the adversary, the resistance to divine will. And the devil, the lower nature of humanity, is tied to selfish desires. Always, right? And dragon, chaotic, untamed energy, represents base instincts, and also represents ignorance. The base instincts, just purely lower self, is, when it's untamed, it's chaotic. All right. When we going listening to these base instincts, it always leads to destruction. All of this stuff does. But that's just one example. So, thoughts coming through, wanting to overeat, want to do any of these things that we know better than to do. Right. That's always the lower self. We have to work on that. We have to be able to get to the point where these thoughts are coming through and inside our head without somebody else having to remind us. We're able to be like, hey, Dragon, what are you doing? What do you really want to do? We're supposed to be able to speak from the higher self, to call it out. Call it out. Then we have beasts, the purely carnal and animalistic aspect of human nature. It's purely carnal, right? Animalistic aspect of human nature. And so when we see, feel these thoughts and things coming through, we're able to stop it right then and there. Now, this takes work more is because the lower self will have you thinking, hey, you gotta do this, you gotta tear this person down, you gotta put them in their place. And they can have you thinking you really need to do that mess. Or have you thinking you really about to change something by doing these things. You're not going to. If you're a Muslim, you're going to practice discipline. Disciplining our own selves and gaining control and subduing the lower self. So those names all symbolize the different manifestations of the lower self, and each one reflects the aspects of our struggle. And the struggle is to rise above our own base desires and our own ego-driven decisions. Islam, brother, I see you asking to add on. Sure, Islam, brother.
Islam, I just want to add on because speaking from my experience, I'm coming from my experience, man. How good the prophet is to me, man. I never knew nothing about Noble Drew. I never knew nothing about the movement or nothing, but it was all part of the design. And by me studying and having common sense, there were certain things that I was reading and also dealing with society, dealing with this, constructive government that we're in. It was a lot of things that I knew that felt it in my heart that it wasn't right. But it was like the neighborhoods I grew up around. It was all subordinate. It was all like hood stuff. It was all design. It was all a part of a design to keep us like bounded down to that lower self. We was never taught about higher self. So I wanted to add on with that because basically in my days of life, it's just like even in this New Year's, there's been all of a sudden like things has just been touching my
Kalen Bay,
spirit.
Dayton, Ohio.
Things have been like really just touching my spirit and basically
Join
like
the meeting.
making me wake up, like making me get more and more because I was incarcerated at a point of time, and this is when I really ran across the movement. And what really opened me up is when I ran across different lessons. I ain't gonna go too much in detail, but it was things that was just hitting me, and I was looking at myself like, man, maybe Allah's trying to tell me something. Maybe I have a purpose in life. Maybe I'm supposed to do something because I was always figuring out like, why am I living? Why am I here? And anyone can think like, yo, we're here, we living, but do you feel like there's a purpose why we're here? Or do you feel like it was questions that was running across my mind, like, why am I here? I'm not here just to live, am I? And then I don't have a choice whether I wake up in the morning or take my next breath. It's someone who has that higher power who decides. And then because I haven't taken my last breath yet, it may be a purpose why I still am alive. So I can't keep ignoring, allowing the Lord self to keep me bound down when the light was shining and I couldn't be like the darkness who didn't comprehend it, like I have to acknowledge it. So it was something in my mind that's telling me every time I get away from it, it would scorch me. It would put me in a worse situation. So I was like, okay, let me sit down and really think. So it was more of like I had to, and then when I got into more science temple, it was teaching me about the higher and the lower self. And also with the higher and lower self, which all of us attain, it also broke down free will because I always knew about free will. So it was our will to choose. It was like Allah always had mercy on us. He had mercy on even the sinners because even when you talk about Yahshua, he loved the world so much. He was coming from the Roman thought biblical. It was more of like, so God so loved the world, he gave his only God son. So he knew that the whole world was sinning. So he loved us enough to send us a savior, even during the time when Lot, or when you're coming with thank you, baby. When you're coming with Lot or either dealing with Noah, it was all the way from the beginning. Of like the warnings, even with like, and then I started seeing divine warnings from the prophet, and then a lot of things he was doing that was taking place in reality. Like I couldn't look at the Bible no more as a myth. I had to look at it as really a history book. Something happened. Why do people believe that it's something that didn't really exist on this land? So I had to bring things to reality. I had to look at things from the highest self and the Lord self, as well as the soul plane, like the spiritual, the soul, and the physical. I had to separate things and started really locking down, man, because it's serious out here, man. It is really serious. It's a lot that's going on out here that a lot of people don't know about, but I don't want to be one of the ones who left back. So, he gonna set his morals on that high plane, man. He said only sheep gonna know the sound of my voice and follow. So I felt like a lot of things were touching me, like, man, I need to start following, because I don't want to be like Lot's wife, who turned around and became a pillar of salt. And just because his wife turned around, he ain't turned around. He was like, nah. He was like, Jesus, I'm about to be about my father's work. So he kept going, and he dwelled and became successful, man. And it was just like so much I want to say, but I can't like put it all in one thing. I don't want to talk too much. I'm just trying to give a overall summation of about even dealing with that lower self. Sometimes we got to fight it. It's strong. These are our foes, but this is also our strength as well. Um, we have to overcome some of them things, and I'm not perfect myself, and I can't look down on no one else, and it's not my job to, and I'm not even going to do it. If I see some things ain't gonna happen overnight. We can't judge, man. Allah is the only judge. I learned that when I was taking the classes of when I took my shahada. I took my shahada. Um, I study everywhere. I was attending different type of services, man. I would go to the Rastafarian services. I would go to church services. I would go to Moorish services. I was just and all of it because I wanted to open myself up to everything. And then I started, even when I came to religious controversy, I was starting to understand even more. I was like, okay, I see what's going on. Even with dealing with the when they talk about the ladder, when, there's building that ladder to heaven, and God spread that so-called God spreading everything. So He's devoured the languages, and it wasn't the true Allah, but I don't get in detail of that. But it was just so much, man, that was opened up to me. So I just wanted to just want to get in, speak on that, and to say that you came. It's crazy. It's not crazy. It's already written. It was divinely prepared for me to jump on this meeting. It's my first time here. And for you to come straight with those questions like that, the high and that lower self. And that's a major topic, because just looking at it, even though the people looking at the names of the high self, or the names that were given to Lucifer, were given to the lower self, Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, these are also the characteristics, like you were saying, that plays a part in all of our life, even with the thoughts. Like when Yahshua had to wrestle with himself, dealing with them thoughts, man. When he sat up on that went to Mount Syria, he had to wrestle with himself. Them thoughts was the negative thoughts that he had to conquer. And this is what we all must do, because where he am, we all shall be. So it was like more, I'm looking at things like, okay, damn, I'm seeing more now of what it really meant, the symbolical messages, and what it really meant to deal with that lower self, and how to fight it, and what appears before our eyes, our own thoughts, our own way. Like with that free will, it's our choice to get mad at something. Like my girl says, like sometimes she'd be like, "You made me mad." I'm like, "I can't make you mad. That's your choice. I can't make you mad. That's your choice. You might not like what I do, but you can't laugh at it. It was your free will to laugh at it or get mad at it." And I understand that even with myself. So that's all of us have to understand that. Like, I can't make you do nothing. It's up to you. It was your choice to get mad. So it's all a battle. So I ain't gonna speak long more. I just want to speak that piece as long more.
Islam, brother. Just want to say that everything's in divine order. So it's definitely no mistakes or no coincidence that you're here right now. And I would say make sure in the chat that you share your contact information. Just remind us again where you're located, name, location, and phone number, email. All right, Islam. And then too, with what you're saying about us all being here for a reason. That's why the prophet put right there in chapter 1, within the creation and fall of man, right? Our higher purpose, because we all have different tasks, different things that we're supposed to accomplish and do. It's unique for each and every one of us, right? But ultimately, right, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And thought must be exercised, developed, pardon self, by the exercise of strength. So that's why we're all here to eventually to subdue this carnal nature. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. And so that's why, even with our people, all of the things that we've gone through in this nation, and then various others throughout Caribbean, Central, South America, because they got marked as Negroes too. But we all have this, we fell. It got played out for the world to see. And so to see us rise up then is we actually do the work to actually follow the prophet, follow these divine instructions. We will set the example. And it will be made so that others can see, like all across the world, like it's not just all about us. Even people in other nations will see and be like, wow, you know, we saw the rap videos. We saw that ignorant stuff they was doing, right? We saw that. And look at them. They turned it around. They're good people. They're honest. They're real people. They're hardworking. They're humble. And they really are working to be the best that they could possibly be. So that's how we will, you know, uplift fallen humanity. Once we uplift ourselves, right? We have to be the example. And so we're returning to our true nature. Ultimately, that's what we're all here to do. It's not something just for this certain people, just for the leaders or something like that. Nah, these messages were, these divine instructions were put out here for each and every one of us, right? We're not holding anybody up on some pedestal or acting like somebody's better than the others, right? This was put out here for all of us, okay? And so that's why, too, we take the time to go through these questions, just doing a few at a time to make sure that it's understood across the board what we're here to do. Okay. So going to question 65, what is the devil sometimes called the lower self? Islam, is that brother our brother Kalen Cookbay that called in from Dayton, Ohio? On the
Islam,
line?
brother. Yes, sir.
All right.
Islam, brother.
Islam, brother, good to hear from you. Praise Allah. All right, here we go. So what is the devil sometimes called the lower self? Now, when we look in the Quran of Mecca, Surah 12, verse 53, it says, verily, the self incites to evil unless my Lord does bestow his mercy. And that verse in there is right in alignment with what it's speaking about here, that the lower self has to be disciplined and it has to be aligned with divine will. We have to do this work because the devil is not some external being. It's not some person out there, you know, with red, with a tail, with horns and all that mess, right? The devil in here is called self, the lower self. And so the Prophet Noble Drew Ali emphasized the importance of overcoming the lower self so that we can live righteously. Like for us, there should be no misunderstanding. We know that it's within. We're not trying to put it off on a certain people or other people right now. Now it's all within, because when we align ourselves with our higher self, right? When we align our thoughts with our higher self, there's nothing on earth that can rule over us. We can't be oppressed. We can't be taken advantage of. We can't. You can't do that when people are aligned with their higher self. It doesn't work like that. And so that's why, you know, the prophet didn't try to set it up where it's like, everybody look at me, I'm so great. And okay, here, I'm going to set up, you know, this civilization and all y'all going to be looking at me like I'm great. Nah, he's like, you are going to subdue your lower self. You are going to unfold Allah within you. You're going to rise to the top, each and every one of us. So there won't be any trickery, any deception. There will be no plans that'll have us enslaved for hundreds of years. It's so bad we even got their grandchildren up under us. Nah, not if we follow these instructions for real, right? And so, you know, you know, some things that we want to work on now. Now, remember, I put those instructions in there, just homework for us all to do and to bring back for our next class for Holy Day, right? And the reason that's in there is because, like, we want to take this out and put this into work in the world, right? We want to have some moments, be able to bring some moments back to share our experience on Holy Day, on Friday, so that we can all inspire each other and get inspired by hearing the experience of others. That's why it's really good if we get the children in here too, so that they can do this. You know, men, women, and children, right? We all need to do this, right? Show how we overcame our lower self just throughout the week. All right, and then moving on to questions 66 and 67, talking about the two cells. How many cells are there, right? It's two cells. Name them, higher and lower self. So as we go into this now, you know, the higher self, so because we have to have a full, well-rounded view of who we are. The higher self is representing the divine spark within. So Allah planted himself within us as a seed, not just within Jesus. That's the measure we got for the most part. And it's, of course, we're not attacking the church in any kind of way, shape, form, or fashion. We don't do that. We don't attack any, you know, church, any organization, any of that stuff. But we do have to tell the truth. So for the most part, how most of us came up, and maybe you had an enlightened preacher who was teaching you the truth, but I didn't. They was like holding it up like Jesus was the son of God, and that's it. Wasn't nothing else to it, right? But in actuality, we understand now later up, growing up and looking at the scriptures, seeing that Jesus, quoting the Old Testament where it says, ye are all gods, right? Sons of the Most High. Okay. And so we're all, sons of Allah. Allah planted himself within us as a seed. And this seed, this is spirit. This is the divine spark in each and every one of us, the higher self. And some of those attributes of the higher self, of course, the 5 divine principles, the highest principles known to man: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All right. So we want to do the work to align our thoughts, deeds, and actions with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Right. So that we can be the greater versions of ourselves, the greatest versions of ourselves. But the lower self, it represents the material, the ego-driven nature, right? The base nature. And it has attributes as well: greed, anger, right? Envy, lust, right? So these are all traits that, come from the lower self. And that's like, that could be a rap song. We could make a hot song right now. Just 3-4 of us get together, make a song called Greed, Anger, Envy, and Lust. And as long as it's got a hot beat, right? That everybody will be playing it and hypnotized. You put the 808 beat in there, everybody will be bopping their heads, hypnotized, right? Greed, anger, envy, and lust. And so, that's what's been used by the outside world to keep us trapped and stuck in that lower base, instinct, to keep us trapped in that animalistic mind state. Okay. And we've been used as tools of destruction to spread this lower self-image out to the world, so that people who can't even relate to us, they're from Zimbabwe, they're from, Mozambique, they're in Indonesia and all these other places. They don't even live like us. But if they listen to that music, right, now they want to make trap music. Now they don't want to raise their children. Now they getting into all the horrible, lower self nature. They're getting into all of that, right? So we're being used as tools of destruction to spread this out to the world. Hey, y'all, ain't it cool to kill your own people? Ain't it cool to sell drugs? Ain't it cool to be evil and despicable and untrustworthy, right? And so we have to go in the opposite direction now, right? Because we're being taught our true nature so that we know when these thoughts are coming through. Hey, that's lower self. Call it out right then and there, not out loud. People are going to be looking at you like, who are you talking to? Do it in our own head. Stop it right there. Stop it and subdue it, right? Because ultimately we are working to unite with the higher self, because the higher self leads to spiritual ascension and fulfilling our purpose, our true purpose as divine beings. The lower self, when it's unchecked, it leads to spiritual stagnation. It's here to keep us distracted from realizing our true purpose. And if there are people who benefit off of us being ignorant, off of us not realizing our true purpose, guess what? That's why they're going to pump this stuff. That's why the prison industrial complex is going to buy up all these record labels and, pay these people, these unconscious Asiatics, to put out this trash, this garbage, right? And to make sure, hey, they destroying themselves, right? So we want to do the opposite, right? We got to check the lower self. We have to. And so, we want to be able to recognize when we're being guided by the higher self versus the lower self. We have to be able to do that. And so that's why we're getting this, what are the names of, lower self? Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, right? Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, but that's why today we go in and we look at, okay, Lucifer, that's ego, right? Pride. We don't want to make decisions from that mind state. If it's coming from ego and pride, don't act like you above everybody and you can just keep being all ego and pride. That means you're all lower self. That means you're Lucifer. You are traveling to and fro, seeking whom you may devour. And as humans who are slaves to our lower self, this is what we're doing in the world. This is what we're doing to our loved ones and to everyone else, right? So we have to recognize this Satan, this, this the adversary, right? The resistance going against the divine will, right? It's only hurting yourself at the end of the day. Even though, yeah, you can harm others and and slow others down too, it's really hurting ourselves. So we have to practice discipline in our thoughts and actions, especially the devil coming through. That's just the low carnal desire. So we have to be able to be disciplined. We have to know even some of these things that we want to do is just hurting ourselves, right? We want to overeat, we want to drink and do all this stuff, right? Versus being disciplined, right? When we're doing this, we're destroying our own self. And that's how relentless and how restless the lower self is. It doesn't care. It's traveling to and fro like a crackhead, just going to over here, going over there. It travels to and fro, seeking whom it may devour. So it's all about destruction, chaos. All right, so we have to elevate beyond that. We have to have a plan, if we really want to do this and be successful. So we have to have our own plan, to strengthen the higher self and to overcome the challenges that are coming through that's related to the lower self. And so that's also why, once again, put that, just that homework in for each of us to do, right? We want to at least just pick one action that's going to reflect our higher self each day and do it. And so when these thoughts are coming through from the lower self, we're subduing it. In our own mind, we're asking, what are you trying to accomplish, Satan or devil, right? So this is another reason too, why we should, take a few notes, at least going over those aspects of those names given to the descendants of Adam and Eve, right? Because we really want to take the steps during this week to embody our higher self, right, in our thoughts and actions, because these things are going to come through during the day. It may be people getting on your nerves, right? It could be all types of things that's that's enticing us to entertain our lower self. It's enticing us to act from the lower self, the carnal mind. So just understand that, we don't want to just talk here. We want to understand the higher self and the lower self. We want to know why these 5 names were given to the descendants of Adam and Eve, right? Understanding that what was said earlier, these Adam and Eve didn't represent a single man or woman. Make sure you know this. This is representing people. This is why I said mothers and fathers of the human family. Asiatics and Muslims. What is Asiatics? Asia was the name of the physical realm. It's the name of the whole world, right? And maybe just the whole manifest, the physical realm. Okay, Asia. That was a name for this whole planet at one time. And so when it says the names, or it says Adam and Eve were the mothers and fathers of humanity, Asiatics and Muslims, right? Asiatics was all of them. Muslims, they were all Asiatics, but Muslims are disciplined and submit to the will of Allah. That's the difference. So we have cousins, we have all types of people we related to. We're all Asiatics, but if you don't submit to the will of Allah, you're not a Muslim. But we are Asiatics, but you're not a Muslim, though. So that was the difference, right? And so this Adam and Eve, they weren't slaves to their lower self. That's it. They weren't slaves to their lower self. They might not have even have been fully physical like we think of, but they weren't slaves to the lower self. Their descendants became slaves to their lower self. And so that's why you have those 5 characteristics of the lower self that are applied to their descendants. All right. And remember that, when the prophet addresses those 5 names, Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, this isn't just some question to memorize. We want to understand that he was illuminating how these aspects of the lower self, how they operate within. Because once we know this, now we can recognize when these thoughts are coming through, oh, that's ego, that's Lucifer, right? It's not some historical thing, or it's not a theory. This is the truth. So this is being given to us so that now with the truth, now we can fight the good fight. Now we can succeed. All right. So we want to internalize these teachings. We want to actually utilize this in our everyday life. And just one last time going over those names. Make sure you're taking notes on this. Lucifer represents false light or misplaced ego. False light, misplaced ego. Lucifer is signifying the part of us that seeks recognition and power for selfish reasons, right? At the expense of our own spiritual connection. So, on the bright side, or the work that we can do to overcome that, we want to practice humility. Surrender to divine will. Practice humility. Those are the antidotes to the ego, the illusions of the ego. We want to do this. We want to apply this on a daily basis, right? We have to reflect on these decisions that we're making. Are they motivated by self-glorification? Is it ego, or are they aligned with divine purpose, right? And most of the time it's ego. So it's like, come on, shut that down. Satan, Satan's the adversary. It symbolizes the resistance to spiritual growth. And it could be our own doubts, self-doubts coming through, or temptations. It could be negative influences. All this stuff is internal. Remember, higher and lower self. So it's all coming from the lower self. It's all in our own head, right? So these challenges, the adversity, these are opportunities to strengthen our faith and commitment to righteousness. So we have to recognize these thoughts that are coming through, right? We want to, on a regular basis, we want to see these obstacles as stepping stones rather than barriers, right? We want to practice mindfulness so that we can identify when there's resistance that's arising. We want to counteract it with prayer or meditation, right? Or just positive actions. We have to be able to counteract this. We have to be able to recognize. And remember, these are the thoughts coming through our own heads. Islam. All right. Okay, Islam. So, moving on to devil. Remember, this devil represents our lower desires. It's greed, it's anger, it's envy. All these traits that are coming, from selfishness. So it's not some external being. It's a reflection of our inner struggles. We want to overcome these tendencies and align ourselves closer to the divine. So on a daily basis, we want to practice self-discipline. And also, we have to be able to exercise introspection. We have to be able to look at what we're actually doing, maybe even before even acting on these thoughts. Is this decision driven by higher principles or selfish desires? That's something we always want to ask ourselves on a daily basis throughout the day. Where's this really coming from? Why am I really doing this? Right? Dragon is representing chaos, ignorance, and untamed passions. Okay? And that signifies the unrefined aspects of our nature. They have to be subdued. They must be subdued, right? For spiritual harmony, we have to. We can't act on it. So we want to, tame that dragon, because as we do that, we're cultivating peace and balance and self-awareness within ourselves. And so another way to do this on a daily basis, we want to practice meditation, right? We want to be able to meditate throughout the day to calm the chaos of the mind, because remember, the mind, the lower self, it always got to be entertained, right? The lower self is relentless. Remember, it's traveling to and fro, seeking whom it may devour. So it's, always like these basic carnal instincts. Oh, if I'm not eating, right? Like, I'm not eating, okay, I'm trying to get entertained. I'm trying to always doing something, right? Are we meditating at all? Even 10, 20 minutes a day? So we want to make sure we're practicing the calming of the mind, calm the chaos of the mind, right? Some of us can't even sit down and eat without holding the phone or a tablet, right? And that's crazy. We can't even take 10 minutes. So we want to practice meditation throughout the week. Hopefully we're all doing it at least twice a day, but ideally, up to 5 times a day. We want to be able to meditate, calm the mind. And, as we do this work and get used to it, we're strengthening our connection with our own higher self. All right. And then lastly, beast. And remember, beast is symbolizing the purely carnal and materialistic aspect of human nature. Okay. So that's the life that solely live for physical gratification and without regard to, spiritual accountability. This is really what's being pushed in the mainstream now, right? They have a name for it, for living like that, right? But this is really what's being pushed, just being about, gratifying itself. You hungry? Eat as much as you want. You got to be entertained. Okay, we got all this stuff for you, video games, all these shows, everything, right? And not having it be unchecked. So we're just all about the experiences, right? Do what you want to do, anything you want to do it. And we want to get that in check. Just gratifying the carnal self, it leads to destruction. No matter how you go with it, whether you're overeating, you're doing drugs, you're watching TV and games and stuff all the time, it doesn't matter which way we go with it. There's so many ways we could go with that unchecked, and that, it just leads to destruction. So we want to rise above the beastly nature, right? And to live with purpose, live with intention. So, focusing on activities that actually nourish the spirit, and making sure that we're incorporating prayer, meditation into our life. There's no way around that. We have to be able to quiet the mind and, study, being of service to others also. But we have to maintain balance in the physical needs. Still got to eat, still got to do these things, but, being in balance. And it's so easy now because you like a show. Oh, you could binge watch the show, watch like 5-6 seasons in one day or something crazy like that. You want to do things in moderation. Maybe you got to check on how much time you're wasting, watching TV and games and stuff like that, right? We doing those things in moderation, okay? But we also having time, to meditate, to prayer, for that to be a part of our life. And want to understand, make sure it's understood the higher self and lower self. They represent the duality within us all. The lower self is the part that just seeks to gratify personal desires. And often that comes at the expense of others, right? Harming or being negative to others. And and definitely, it comes at the expense of honoring our higher spiritual principles, right? Because the lower self is just tied to materialism, ego, and selfishness. That's all it is. The higher self is the divine spark within, and it's aligned with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? It seeks harmony, compassion, and alignment with Allah's will. And that's what it's about. When we look in the Quran of Mecca, Surah 91, verses 7 through 10, it's in connection with this understanding of the higher and lower self. It says, and he inspired the self with its evil, its piety, and its piety. Indeed, he who purifies it succeeds, and he corrupts it fails. And in that verse is highlighting that inner battle between the higher and lower self, right? And it's showing the importance of purification, making sure that we're aligned with righteousness. And we wanted to understand because this affects our daily lives. So we want to be aware, right? Aware, and also be able to reflect on our own thoughts and actions, being able to be critically about it, looking at things critically. So we're understanding the higher and lower self and how we were acting through our lower or higher self throughout the day so that we can go back and correct that stuff. Like we want to be able to consciously choose to act from the higher self, and an example is like when you're being angered, doesn't matter if someone else caused it or what. We want to be able to ask ourselves, like, is this my lower self reacting? How would my higher self respond? We want to be able to do that. And sometimes, being able to do that can save your life because, especially if you're about to get violent or something like that, or do something that's going to wind up costing you a lot of money or something like that. Man, you're not thinking about it in the moment, because emotions and all this stuff, all this carnal stuff is in there. And then when you make that decision, it could really, screw your life up. Then you got to pay. And, look, we want to make sure that we are able to take that time out, even if it's only 1 minute. It might be real quick, but mentally to make sure, hey, am I acting for my lower or higher self? Being able to dial it back, right? Look at it from the eyes of the observer. Step outside of your body for a second. Like, what am I acting from, right? Because that struggle between the higher and lower self, it requires, consistent spiritual practices so that we can stay aligned with the divine. We have to be doing regular prayer and meditation, right? The meditation, we're not talking because we're quieting the mind. We're really quieting the chaos coming from the lower self, right? We want to be able to study the Quran, not just on Holy Day, not just Sunday school, right? Because doing this is strengthening our own understanding, our own resolve, right? And we want to be able to practice acts of kindness also throughout the week, acts of kindness and service to others, because that's aligning us with the attributes of the higher self. So wrapping this up, ending this out, just practical steps we can take to embody the higher self, right? First off, just want to go back again, share the instructions, just some homework for us all to work on throughout the week. Let's all come back here Friday and share our experience. Now, what I was just asking everybody to do throughout this week, right? Commit to one action. It's going to reflect our higher self each day. And then let's share our experiences on Friday, the holy day for Muslims all over the world. Okay. And, things that we can practice throughout the week. We want to be able to set intentions on a daily basis. You can start each day by setting an intention to act from the higher self, right? So we can, reflect on the divine attributes of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And then throughout the day, we're aiming to embody those five higher principles throughout the day. I saw you, Brother Kobe. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam Grand Sheik, I was just trying to get a little bit more concrete on the instructions for Friday. Islam.
Islam, brother.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for what I want us all to be able to come back and share Friday is just our experience. So each day, right? Let's commit to at least one action that's coming from the higher self. And let's practice that throughout the whole day, right? So when we come back on Friday, what's it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? We should have at least 5 or 6 experiences to share, like, hey, this is what I was working on throughout the week. So we want to commit on at least one action that's reflecting our higher self each day. And then we're going to share those experiences at the next class, right? And it's great, if the children are involved too, and they're sharing their experience. So this is like a family thing, We can work on embodying our higher self. We're just going to pick one action, though, that reflects the higher self. And then we come back, on Friday and discuss that, right? And so, shouldn't be a hard, it's not like a really hard, difficult assignment, but just sharing that experience, just being mindful of what we're doing throughout the day, maybe even have some challenges that make it hard to, to embody that or reflect that higher self principle that you're working on, right? But we're going to do it anyway. And so when we come back here, we're sharing our experience and we also inspiring each other. Islam. But yeah, I'll say everybody, make sure you copy that, text it to yourself or, text it to children, somebody, and let's all work on this throughout the week. All right. And then we'll share our experience on Friday. Right. And, when we are faced with challenges, though, we want to be able to take a moment. We want to be able to pause, want to be able to ask ourselves, like, is this reaction coming from my lower or higher self? We want to be able to do that within our own minds, right? Because just in doing that, that's reflecting patience, compassion, and wisdom, right? Wisdom, will, and love. We're practicing that just in being able to step instead of reacting right away. Because, like, for the most part, most of us are just reacting. Somebody says something you don't like, you got to put them in their place or, whatever it is. We're not even really, practicing these principles. So we want to do this throughout the week and then share this on Friday because we're all going to learn from each other, right? And I'd say another thing that we should be doing too to make sure that we are working to embody the higher self is, practicing gratitude. Make sure that we're working on this. We're practicing gratitude, which the first thing we could do as soon as you go, wake up in the morning, start giving, gratitude for everything. Then at the end of the day, giving gratitude again. All right. Because gratitude immediately shifts the focus from whatever it is that we're lacking, which is a trait of the lower self. Lack and limitation is all lower self. It's all lower self. All of it is, right? You can be like, oh, but I'm having money problems. No. Lack and limitation is all lower self, right? Because Allah cannot have money problems. Allah cannot be sick. Allah cannot be any of these things. One of the names of Allah was I am. When you're looking at it from the biblical scriptures, right? When Moses asked God what's his name, he said I am. And what that means is, right, I am, because Allah is within each and every one of us, the higher self. But what that means is it's blasphemous to say I am SICK, right? I don't even want to say it out loud. I don't even want to spell it. And I know this might be hard to do, but even when I was in the hospital just like a few years ago, right, I ain't trying to say none of that stuff. I don't care what's going on, right? We're not putting any of that stuff on Allah within. So whatever we're going through, it's just a challenge to overcome, to be the strength of Allah made manifest. So we don't put on any that's blasphemous. We don't put anything negative on the I am, right? We're not putting anything that we're going through this negative on the I am. We're not going on and on about our downfall, right? We switching the mindset. We just going through something to be the strength of Allah made manifest. So we're focusing on the positive. And so, ideally at night, we're giving gratitude. Gratitude, just finding all the things that we can give gratitude for. Just the fact that you can give gratitude, that means that, you probably don't have Alzheimer's or something like that. Your mind is good. You can think. You should give thanks for that, because somebody right now can't even do that. So we all have so many things to give gratitude for. And so we're switching from what we lack, because that's all lower self. And now we're appreciating the blessings that we have. The lower self is chaotic, right? It's traveling to and fro. Remember, it's just chaos, unchecked. So we're switching to the higher self, to the divine. We're giving gratitude for everything, right? We're appreciating all the blessings that we have. We're not sitting in the corner thinking about how this person did this and I'm angry, but no. So we're switching the mindset. And then also the way that we interact people after giving gratitude when you go to sleep and when you wake up, we're not having an attitude and angry with people about the past and all this stuff. Now you're having a higher mindset, the mindset of the creator, right? So we're fostering a mindset of abundance and alignment with the higher self. So you're not waking up the next day angry about something that happened the day before, a week before, years before, right? And so that's something that we all need to embody. Not because I said so, but because we want to align with our higher self, right? And we want to surround ourselves with positive influences, right? When we engaging with each other, right? We want to have people, environments, right, that encourage our spiritual growth. So we want to distance ourselves from negativity, because all that does is feed the lower self. Now you got to put them in their place. Now you got to react from a base level. Now you got to be like a badger fighting for your life, right? So we want to get away from all that mess, right? And we want to be able to examine ourselves, self-reflection. At the end of the day, review our thoughts and actions, right? When did we reflect our higher self? When did the lower self influence us? And we only do that not to harp on anything. We just do that to use reflection to grow, to improve. I could have did that from the higher self and went in a totally different, a better direction, right? And, practicing forgiveness too, because we should all be able to forgive ourselves and others for mistakes, because when you're holding on to resentment, it just feeds the lower self. That's all carnal, lower self, lack, limitation, right? That's all lower self. So forgiveness aligns with divine mercy, right? And peace, to be able to move on. Like, You know, you got to be stuck down here. That's all lower self. So we're moving on from that. You know, we're going rising higher. And you know, the lessons in here on the higher and lower self, the 5 names of the descendants of Adam and Eve, all that is shared here to shed light on our true nature, to teach us the spiritual elevation, right? Or show us how to elevate spiritually. Because once we're aware, right, our awareness increases. Now we know about this stuff, this lower self stuff. Now we can discipline ourselves and align with our divine principles. And when we understand the meanings of those names, this is why I went over it more than once. You know, now we have the tools to identify and overcome the tendencies of the lower self, right? Because as Moorish Americans, you know, the prophet gave us these teachings to uplift ourselves and eventually others, right? But it happens when we embody the divine attributes that the prophet Noble Drew Ali, you know, exemplified. And that, you know, that helps us to strive daily to live from the higher self and to reflect the love, the truth of Allah in everything that we do. Okay. And so that's why I shared that, you know, that homework this week. Let's commit to one action, right? Each day, one action that reflects our higher self. And then we share our experience the next class, and we're inspiring each other, also reflecting on ourselves, which helps us to improve. And so just sharing that, Morris. I don't have anything else to say, brother Kobe. I yield the floor. Of course, if there's questions or comments, Morris, please feel free to speak. On that note, I yield the floor back to our chairman. Islam.
Islam. This is a great bill. Islam, was any questions or any announcements before we read a little bit of the divine instructions and go into the closing?
Islam.
Islam.
I would like to I would like to metaphorically rise to my highest heights, giving our perfect praises to our Father God Allah. I'd like to give honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, all the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. I'd like to give honors to Marcus Messiah Garvey and all the Moors on the call, Islamism. This was a great build today, great measures. What I've noticed about the particulars in all of the names, Lucifer, Satan, Dragon, Devil, and Beast, when I looked them up, it says that all of the names were referring to the same entity, the personification of evil. And we know through our 101s that the lower self, what the lower self breed in 73, hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. Those things are evil. So I see no correlation in them. Also, I would like to see if the Grand Sheik or anyone on the call would like to go into any demonstration about it's a book in the early 1900s that was titled The Negro a Beast or in the Image of God. And in it, it says at the bottom, more or less, the reasoner of the age, the revealer of the century, the Bible as it is, the Negro in his relations to the human family, the Negro not the son of Ham. And it's listed that it's the book was published in the 1900, and it says enter according to Act of Congress in the year 1900 by Charles Karen in the office of the Library of Congress, Washington, D.C. Would this Grand Sheik like to do any demonstration on our Holy Quran and how our Holy Quran, our divine laws, prove this to be wrong? Islamism.
Islam, brother, can you repeat what you just read real quick?
The book itself, the Negro book.
Islam, yeah. Could you just repeat what you just read?
The name of the book is The Negro, a Beast, or in the image of God. This is in quotes. Then it says underneath, the reasoner of the age, the revealer of the century, the Bible as it is, the Negro in his relation to the human family. Then it states underneath, the Negro a beast, but created with an articular speech and hands. He may be of service to his master, the white man, the Negro, not the son of Ham. Neither can it be proven by the Bible and the arguments of the theologians who would claim such merits to miss or melts to miss the thunderous and convincing argument of this masterful book by Charles Carrington or Caron, excuse me. It states at the bottom, entered according to Act of Congress in the year 1900 by Charles Caron in the office of the Library of Congress, Washington, D.C. Islam.
Oh yeah, so Islam. So that whole book, you know, when you look at what's being said in there, the way it's worded, it's the entire thing is just a fiction. It's just, you know, an attempt to define the Negro, and you know, it's something that even all the Europeans at that time, the pale skinned Europeans, didn't even all agree with it. But it was just an attempt to further define and confine the Negro, right? The descendant of enslaved Africans, and that they're godless and that they were given civilization, right? So that everything that we get, you know, can be taken away as well by Europeans. But the whole entire thing's a fiction, you know, even just in the way that it's worded, right? Now, it's also proof that, which I guess people could argue, but you know, from our perspective, right, as a Moorish American Muslim, it's proof that we have to come into our own fold to be who we truly are. We can't continue to go by these names and nicknames that were placed upon us by people that did not have our best interests at heart, right? We have to self-define ourselves. And as Moorish American Muslims, we're the descendants of the creators of civilization. Of course, we're connected to a lot of this whole Negro, the beast, or in the image of God. It's acting like it's something, some missing link. It's outside of creation. We know who we truly are. We have our own religion. We understand that our religion is the ancient religion, right? Islam isn't even a new religion. It's the old time religion, because from our perspective, all the prophets, you know, were prophets of Allah. And we're coming back into our true nature. We don't need anybody to tell us who we are. We know who we are, just like almost everyone else in the world, unless they've, you know, bought into all the mainstream, you know, the mainstream constructs where they don't know who they are anymore. But for the most part, we have our own philosophy. We have our own way of looking at the world. We have our divine creed. We don't need anybody to speak for us. And then by coming in and being who we actually are, embodying all these principles as Moorish American Muslims, we don't even need anybody to believe it and accept it, because it will show in the actions that we do. It will show in the communities that we create, right? It will show. And then in doing that and embodying our higher principles, right? You know, having our families, households in orders and everything that we need to do, there's nothing anybody else can say to us. It's like, okay, we actually are those Moors who civilized everyone else. So you can't tell me nothing. Can't speak for me. No one can speak for us. We won't be able to, because like right now, there are people, they're Europeans, and I'm not knocking them, but there's people, Europeans, who are like professors, and they're writing books of talking about the Moors. There's even one called the Aliyite, and I'm not knocking that professor. I'm looking for the book, but there's one called the Aliyite where he's writing about the Prophet and Moors, and he's getting everything wrong. Nobody can speak for us. This person could try to write a book. It wouldn't even apply to us. What is the Negro? We know what it is. The Negro is a beast. It's a four-legged beast. Like, we can speak on it. We don't need anybody else to speak on us. Nobody could be the expert on us. But as, you know, African Americans, as Black people, unfortunately, other people can be the experts on us. Other people can define who we are and try to confine us to some little small label and everything. But as Moorish Americans, nobody can do that, right? Nobody can truly do that. We can speak for ourselves. We can create our own universities, have our own professors who are experts, in everything Moorish, and nobody can say anything about it, right? So it's just, once again, we have to come into it, the fold, and act and actually embody these divine principles because they're given to us by a prophet of Allah. So as a Moorish American, no Moorish should be out here going against these laws, these divine instructions. Every Moorish American is supposed to be in alignment with these divine instructions from the Holy Prophet, right? You're supposed to be acting like this is from a prophet of Allah. So there's no one of us that should be all willy-nilly just, oh, it's whatever. No, we supposed to be holding to it, right? Instead of acting like we ain't serious. And so, that's really it. I mean, like, that book though, it was argued about, and some people, even some lawmakers and people like that, aligned with what it was teaching, but it was propaganda. It was all about defining us and confining us, like making it where this is who you are, you stuck in this label. And just another reason why we needed a prophet, whether we knew it or not, and it should be another call to action for all Moorish Americans to get right. Get in here. What are you doing? There's no half stepping. Come into the temple. Let's build up our own Moorish community or Moorish communities, right? And let's act accordingly. And if we're doing things that's dirty, that's wrong, let's clean our actions up. Let's get right. Let's make sure that our households are in order, and that's really all there is to it, and going back to those, principles that we were, speaking on, just some of the stuff that I was saying that we need to work on throughout the week. We really do need to work on those higher principles, coming in, practicing gratitude, changing our mind state, getting away from, feeling bad for ourselves and getting stuck in negative, mindsets, right? We have to come in and flip all of that so that we can now truly be successful. We can't succeed. There's no unity. Just like we Friday, we did the chapter on unity. There's no unity if we're not embodying these higher principles. Nobody wants to unify with us. We don't even want to unify with us, right? If we're, embodying our negative lower principles, we can't trust each other if we're acting like that, right? So we have to come in and embody it for real and now put this into work. And then on a daily basis, each one of us individually, the task is on us, right? There's nothing, this work that must be done. It can't be done by anybody else. And it's not going to be done by anybody else, right? We have to do it. It seems like a lot of people in the world, they're just going to go along with this stuff that's being pushed by the pale-skinned nations of Europe, the Romans. They're just going to go along with it to their own downfall. We're the only ones that are going to step up, that are going to do our own thing. And by our own thing, I don't mean the lower self. I mean the higher self, right? Following Allah, embodying these principles to the point where books and stuff like that, they don't even matter. Nobody will take it seriously. Islam. And so that's all I had to say about that. I yield the floor, Islam.
Islam and gratitude. Islam. Without further ado, I'd like to go into the closing of the meeting. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah have given thee. Come all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright, because you are not Negroes. Learn your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift all of humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. The Holy Koran of the Moorish Temple of America. Know thyself and your Father God Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree. The uniting of H. Islam, Islam, Islamism. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are able to, can we please rise for the closing prayer? Again, in our Moorish cactus pose, 2 fingers to the right, 5 to the left, feet in a 45-degree angle. You do not have to repeat after me. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefather divine and national principles. We ask this in thy holy name, in the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Sunday, school Muslims. Peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam, brother.
Islam.
Gratitude, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love, Morris.
Islam, peace and love, Morris.
Islam, peace and love.